So, in today's video, we are going to be talking about 5 mistakes that I made when I was 21 years old. Now, some of it is gonna be stupidly comedic, and some of it is going to be kind of serious. But to sum it all together, I want you to enjoy the show. Alright, so let me start with number 1. The first mistake that I made when I was a 21-year-old entertainer, I would be the person who would take the path of least resistance in the beginning. And yes, that includes bitching and moaning. Well, not to other people, of course. It would only happen in my mind's atmosphere. And it would go a little bit like this. Why am I putting in such intense slave labor just to get a better position inside of an industry that I am working for? Because most of the time, the answers that I would hear to that question would either be too vague or too dismissive. Until I heard someone, who was actually 5 years younger than me, by the way, say this quote. A simple coal would have to go through extreme pressure in order for it to turn into a diamond. And when I heard that for the first time, I'm not gonna say that it changed my life, because really that's too much of an over-exaggeration. Plus that saying is just way too overused. But it paved a way for me to slowly change my default thinking over time. Number 2, hesitation. As in, I would hesitate to do things that were way more bigger than my thinking at the time. Let me elaborate. I would always be the guy who would take action, but never enough of an amount to create the desired result. All because of the fact that I would be afraid of facing obstacles that would include judgment, being undermined, and most scary of all, being treated as irrelevant. But yet, that quote that I just said in number 1 would still run into my head. A simple coal has to go through extreme heated pressure in order for it to transform into a diamond. You get what I'm saying? Number 3, switching industries. And this is a big one, ladies and gentlemen. Now, how do I describe this? When I was still in the entertainment game, I was working for an agency, a modeling agency to be exact. There came a time where I felt like I was stuck in a rut, and I wanted to kind of get out of that. So my perfect solution for that was to switch industries. And the reason for that was to find a way to gather funding to reinvest into my entertainment journey so that I could get myself a little bit up in the ladder.
Little did I know.
That was a huge mistake. And here's where I explain myself in number 4. Quitting my job too early. To pursue new things in order to fund your passion without confirmation whatsoever is a big mistake in itself, especially when you're in your early 20s. And it's something that you don't want to put yourself through, because really, you will pay a heavy price for it. Moving on to number 5, caring too much about what other people think. I know that sounds cliche, but let me give you a much more different perspective. Now, to care about what other people think is a necessary element for you to create friends, create bigger networks with others, and to leave an impression on the right people. But now, let me elaborate here where it goes wrong, and especially where it goes wrong. You see, there's 2 factors that you need to consider when it comes to this trait. Validation seeking and self-satisfactory intent. Now, too much validation seeking puts a person in an unsatisfactory and depressive state. And too much self-satisfactory intent can cause a person to develop narcissistic behaviors, which can be very detrimental in the long term. So what you want to do is that you want to find a middle point. You don't want to be either or. When you have both entwined, this gives you the ability to be a great human leader. Why? Because being able to think about yourself and having the consideration of others' thoughts around you can give you a perfect gateway to create a win-win in any situation that you and others get into. And as you know, I found this out the hard way. It's just that simple. So, we have now come to the end of the video. I hope that these little tips kind of help a few people along the way. And yeah, that's about it. So this is BK, the definition, and I will be gone.